Awesome, awesome, awesome. I think I have just about everybody that has recently joined on. So once again, I am asking for everybody to go ahead and change your name. Go to the three dots next to your name, click rename, first name, last initial, and your affiliation. It could be your school abbreviation. It could be the corporation or company that you're coming a part of, or just saying, hey, a tech major or a game development major or things like that would be great. Yes, San Jose, California, Ukraine, awesome. Checking in from Atlanta. Okay, at this point, we're worldwide. Shout out to Tempe, Arizona. I was just in Phoenix 2 weeks ago. My sister lives there. I cannot imagine what the heat is like for you right now, but all prayers to you. David from San Diego, awesome. I love it. Go Padres. Yes, 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 yes. Indianapolis, awesome, awesome. Love it. Thank you guys so much. Buena Park, California. Are you kidding me? I'm from Simi Valley, California. Most people don't even know where Buena Park is. So I hope you know where Simi Valley is because we're on the same page. Southern California in the house. Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Irvine, California, shout out. So awesome. Queens, New York. We are global, Riot team. So shout out to you all. Anaheim, California, Vancouver, Los Angeles, Bordeaux. Yes. Irvine, Queens, Dallas, Louisville, San Diego, Charlotte. Love it. Perfect. Awesome, guys. So first and foremost, thank you for joining on today. Today is our first official Riot Fireside Chat, and we are super excited to have the Riot Games team here to be able to facilitate these. This is literally the best opportunity for anyone that is trying to get within the gaming industry to have this network, have these connections, and even have these previous conversations so that you can get acclimated to their workspace, even just within the gaming industry workspace, and for you to get acclimated to the industry that you want to go to specifically. So we're very excited. And today's topic is Introduction to Gaming with the Riot staff. So our Riot staff will come in and give you a great introduction to what gaming is all about and how Riot Games actually plays a part in that gaming industry. Super excited. So just quickly, I want to say, first and foremost, of course, welcome, but also please follow us. So Cxmmunity Co, if you see our @, that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @community, but then also Riot Games, same thing, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, @Riot Games. Please, during this time, follow us because we will be posting more about the different fireside chats we have, more about our community relations, and even some upcoming events that we have going on. So very excited for you to get involved. Quick agenda for the day. I just did that quick opening and a quick welcome. I'm gonna go over this as far as the agenda very quickly, but also we will do our community introduction. So Cxmmunity Co is the co-host of this event specifically. And then we will allow Riot to have their time to do their introductions, give you guys the full layout of what Riot Games is about and how you can get into this industry. And then we'll have a quick Q&A. So please get your questions ready. During the presentations throughout any of them, you can drop in any direct messages to myself of any questions that you might have, or even to the Riot team so that we can go ahead and answer those during our Q&A, or if you just have them while we're there, we can answer them then. And that will be kind of the basis of what we're going through. So first and foremost, community is the best and especially like the most recent as far as pipelines for students of color within the gaming and esports industry. So we have 3 different areas that we go into. So esports and gaming. So we created the first HBCU esports league. So that's historically Black colleges and universities. I am a graduate of Clark Atlanta University myself, a dual bachelor's degree in management and supply chain management. But we are helping students like myself be able to get acclimated to the gaming industry, get the networks that are needed for the gaming industry, and also equip yourself with the necessary workforce knowledge for that industry. So that is why we are having what we are having today and in the upcoming future with Riot Games, because they are so prominent within this industry that we feel like our students or anyone should be able to have this information. So super excited about that. Just quickly, the best way for us kind of to describe our main points. is immersive learning, scholarships, mentorships, internships, full-time employment, and entrepreneurship. So we work with students K through 20. So that is collegiate, all the way down to our K through 12 that we're working with students literally in the elementary, if not preschool areas. So this is how we get as involved as possible within this industry, all the way down to our collegiate students currently now getting internships and even full-time employment with a lot of our partners. And that is very exciting for us. But any way that we can lead and guide the student journey is what we want to do in the most efficient way as possible. And we want to make it about you. It's not about us and what we can provide. It's about what you as a student or as someone that's looking to be in this career wants to be going towards. So please keep that in mind, even though these are our basic and overall objectives. What we want you to do is tell us, hey, Justice, sometimes I might need this type of training rather than this. Let me know, and I would love to be able to talk to you about it. As I previously stated, once this decides to, there we go. As I previously just stated, we are the stakeholders of HBCU esports. So that's all trademarking, copyrights, and naming and licensing for this brand. HBCU esports is the first historically Black college and university tournament / esports platform for us to be able to actually get money within this space. So one of our students got over $17,000 by playing games within our league. So that's what we're all about, is ensuring that those diverse students, those that are in underrepresented communities, are getting some, not just game time, but some money for the game time that they're actually playing. So however we can do that is what we want to do. That all the way goes down to our lab build outs, which now we're at 6. At the end of this summer, we will be at 10. So if you have a school that you're like, I need an esports lab, I need an esports club, please feel free to reach out to Cxmmunity Co, because that is what we are all about, is making sure that especially that diversity gap within the technology industry is met through gaming and esports. Quickly, just a few of our partners for our league specifically, we have, and when it decides to go back, we have Nike, of course, Twitch, Verizon, DTLR, Comcast, and especially even Nike House of Hoops. These people have come in and said that they want to not just partner with us, but they are now funding that HBCU esports league. The best example I always give about this is we have a partnership with Nike to where all of our Black female, which that is the way that it has happened, all of our hosts and casters are Black female gamers. So with that, it is allowing us to partner with people like Nike, where they give them full outfits every single week, brand new. That is shoes, pants, t-shirts, because they are supporting this initiative and ensuring that this diverse community is being captured within this space. So these are our partners. If you guys have any of these partners already in your back pocket, please reach out to us and let us know how we can collaborate more. I know, very quick. Again, my name is Justice Miranda. I am Director of Operations for Cxmmunity Co. We are a nonprofit that is geared to helping bridge that diversity gap within the gaming and esports industries, and super excited about today and the upcoming Fireside Chats that we have going with Riot Games. And that is where I will give it off.
Hey friends, my name is Farah. I lead our diversity and inclusion strategic partnerships at Riot. And before we kick off today, I just want to share with you a little bit about Riot Games. Now, I'm sharing my screen with you, and I want to make sure y'all see the picture of Tibbers. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Making sure that's working. Awesome. Feel free to add stuff in the chat as I'm sharing with you a little bit about Riot. Love to see active folks talking about what you're seeing in the chat. So I want to tell you a little bit about us and what you can expect today. So this is a team of Rioters that are here to talk to you today. So there is myself, again, I lead our strategic partnerships. Drew Holdwick is going to be your incredible moderator, and Drew works on our production operations team. You'll also hear from Marlon Oliva, who's a visual designer in information design systems. You probably have questions about what these titles mean already, but don't worry, you're going to learn about this. And then we have Brandon Robertson, who's senior manager in learning and development. and Daniel Lee, who's a corporate development manager. Now, you'll notice that none of these titles say engineer or anything of that sort, and that's because we want to let you know that you don't have to be an engineer to work in games. In fact, the contributions of these folks that you're going to hear from are what make it possible for Riot to make the games and the content that we make. So excited for y'all to get to know them more. Who here has heard of Riot? Y'all have heard of Riot before today, right? Obviously, that's why you're here. And so this is our mission. We aspire to be the most player-focused game company in the world. And that's where I think that all of our magic lies. Our competitive edge has always been this ability to authentically connect with so much heart and passion and love for our players, our games, and the experiences. And you'll get to hear some of that today. There are over 3,500 rioters worldwide. And earlier this year, we actually all had an opportunity to come together in Barcelona. And this is an image of over 2,500 or so rioters who all came together. Pretty cool photo opportunity. We also have offices all over the globe, over 20 offices. We're operating in all regions, as you can see here as well. And this is some of our kind of portfolio, what you'll see for Riot titles. Obviously, League of Legends is the most played PC game in the world with 100 million ADUs and 160 billion lifetime hours played. That's a pretty big number. I'm seeing Val, Project L. What's your favorite Riot title? Put that in the chat. Let's see what wins here. A little bit more. Y'all have watched, I hope you've watched Arcane. If not, that's your assignment for the weekend. We'll binge watching. It is our animated series. It's set in the Twin Cities of Piltover and Zon, and the story follows two iconic League of Legends champions and the power that will tear them apart. Dun, dun, dun. It's very good. You should absolutely watch it. It's actually incredible. Also, shout out to the Arcane team. They were just nominated for 2 Emmys, which is huge, and we're so excited about that. Riot goes also beyond games. There's our music, comic book, board games, whole kind of world of ways to get engaged with Riot and our titles. So if playing the games themselves isn't your jam, maybe you're someone who's super into the music, or you watch Arcane, or you play the board games, whatever it is. Or maybe you're an esports fan. So Riot operates esport leagues worldwide, including our biggest league, which is the LCS, with over 100 teams. And this year, we actually announced that there will also be a league for Valorant, which is super exciting. And lastly, if you're interested in an opportunity to work at Riot, we have 2 kind of peak internship programs. There's one internship program that allows you to focus specifically on an area at Riot. So if you're someone who does want to be an engineer, or who wants to work in HR, or who wants to work in something super specific, you do an internship on that thing for the whole summer. Alternatively, there's a really cool esports immersion program that was launched a couple of years ago, partnering with some of our HBCU partners that work directly with Cxmmunity. And this is something that we partnered with Cxmmunity to do. And that one is going to be across esports. And so if you're someone who's like, what do you do in esports? What kind of opportunities could I have? This is an opportunity to go a mile wide across esports as opposed to a mile deep. More to come. If you want to learn more, check out the following Fireside Chats. We're going to be hosting an entire session on this and telling you how to get prepared. And I will leave you with that. Good luck, have fun, and I will hand it over to our incredible moderator, Drew.
Hey all. Okay, so my name is Drew. I am a program manager here at Riot for our production operations team. So that's just a fancy way of saying I help other Rioters. I make sure that they have everything they need, the tools, the training to make awesome games. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to be your moderator. And I am going to chat with our panelists a little bit today. I'm going to ask some questions that are a mix of storytelling, just understanding their careers, how they got where they are. And then I'm also going to have some questions around tips and tricks so that y'all can kind of take away some nuggets and have some tangible things that you can think about and chew on a little bit. So I am going to ask first for each of our panelists to introduce themselves. Let's just really quickly do like a round robin of that, and then I'll get started with our first question. So let's start with Daniel, and then we'll hand it over to Brandon.
Sure. Is this thing working?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, so my name is Daniel. And first and foremost, it's super nice to be here, and thank you guys so much for having me and the Riot team. It honestly means a lot. So yeah, I've been with Riot for a little over a year and a half now. I'm a manager on the corporate development team, and corporate development is kind of funny because it combines like two meaningless words into something that's surprisingly even more meaningless. But essentially, my role revolves around strategy investing, and my work kind of gets split into three main pillars. The first is venture investing in games. There, my work kind of revolves around early stage investments in studios that can potentially be the next Riot Games. And my team is particularly proud of our work in launching and driving the Underrepresented Founders Fund, which we created in the summer of 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. Some of the coolest ideas that we see in games are often from minority voices that frankly don't get the attention they deserve. And so we've committed $10 million to underrepresented founders as Riot's contribution towards helping solve that problem. The second pillar of I guess the work that I do is revolved around traditional corporate M&A, and here we really focus on buying studios who we think do great work and can help Riot achieve its pretty ambitious goals. And then the last bucket of work is around strategic projects, so really driving conversations with our leaders around almost philosophical topics like should Riot do blank. But all in all, the job is pretty demanding but rewarding, and I would rather not be doing anything else.
Nice. Thanks, Daniel. All right, let's go over to Brandon. Let's share with folks what you do at Riot.
Great. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Thumbs up if you can. Cool. I see head nods, thumbs up. Thank you so much. First, again, also really grateful for being here. Any opportunity I can get to talk to young students, college students, or folks who are interested in making career shifts, I'm game for. As Drew mentioned, my name is Brandon Robertson. I'm a manager on our central learning and development team. Yes, which means I am a teacher. I literally am responsible for skill development and learning at Riot. So if you thought that learning ended when you graduated, no, it continues. It also means that you don't have to be the best at the thing that you do when you come to a place like Riot or any company. There are still opportunities for you to grow and go deeper into a new or different skill set. Maybe you come in as a project manager, you want to be a producer. I help you find those resources and even help you with some of those trainings. If you want to go from being an individual contributor to a manager, that's really my forte, because at Riot, I focus on leadership and management development. So if you want to come in and you want to grow at a company, and I'm the person who works centrally to make sure that all the resources you need and opportunities you need to really manifest that growth, you have access to.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks, Brandon.
There's just only one left. Hello, can you hear me? Good. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Greetings from Los Angeles. My name is Marlon Oliva. I'm a visual designer on the Information Design Systems team, aka IDS. We help teams at Riot with their presentation design, branding, logos, and data visualizations, to name a few. Think of us as kind of like an agency embedded within Riot, where you request a service and we try to facilitate it. A lot of times an engineer will have to present to stakeholders, and their forte is engineering, right? Like that's what they do. They're a great engineer, and maybe the visuals might be lacking a little bit, right? We step in, we clean it up, we help them with their narrative, and we also work with communications team. They leverage us to jump in on big presentations. For example, if our CFO needs to do a huge presentation overseas, we'll jump in, we'll do the branding, we'll clean it up, and just make it look nice, but also make it so that it is easily digestible, and you have takeaways at the end of it. So yeah, just visuals. That's what I do.
Yes, and shameless plug. Marlon helps me with a lot of my presentations and my department's presentations, and they are always so on point, so beautiful, so aesthetically pleasing.
Thanks, Drew.
You just gave him a lot of work, Drew, because now I know.
I know. Well, I saw Brandon light up a little bit. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know we had that." We're a brand new service. We're about a year old, and so little by little we're expanding. And thanks, Drew and Brandon. I'll talk to you soon.
So okay, I'm gonna keep you here since I have you, and start off with a few of our kind of questions about your journey. So can you tell us, Marlon, a little bit about your origin story? How did you find your way into the gaming industry and where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I didn't start off in gaming. I worked in the music and live event sector. So that festivals, DJ events, all of that. So I would do, someone would approach me and I would do like logos, I would do branding for like, festivals overseas, DJ logos, things of that nature. But I was mostly focused in that sector. And so as a side gig, I kind of was doing freelancing, like events, and then that became kind of like my main gig. But then when the world flipped and we had to go into pandemic mode and lockdown, I essentially had to pivot, right? Live events were done. There were no more festivals, there were no more DJing, there was nothing, right? And so I used my free time over the last like 2 years to kind of hone my skills a little bit more, refocus, build a portfolio that I could submit for employment. I love video games, right? And I always wanted to work in the industry, but it was something that I always thought, wouldn't happen. And so in those 2 years of kind of doing research into maybe the skill sets that were sought after, learning certain types of design that I thought would be good in my tool set, I put together a portfolio and sent it over, not thinking I would ever get a call back. And I did, right? It wasn't for a full-time position, but it was for contractors. So they just needed like someone to assist. And so I came in 20 hours, and those 20 hours became 30 hours, for example, and then they became 39. And then, I just didn't say no to any project, and they found some money in the budget. They were like, "Hey, like we want to hire you full time," and I was like, "Great, where do I sign?" And they said, "Well, you still have to do 5 interviews, right? It doesn't matter, right?" Like I was there for 7-8 months already. I still had to go through the process, and it was difficult. It was hard, but and now I obviously got hired, and 1 year in. So just in short, I feel like I don't have the maybe traditional trajectory of what you may think getting into a role like this is. But I just want to always, if there's one thing you walk away from this talk, is that there's no one way, right? You can come in it from other ways. And I think that that's really important, that you understand that to work in gaming, you don't need to necessarily be an engineer. You don't necessarily need to be a coder, right? So that's my spiel.
Nice, thanks. I know kind of similarly, Brandon, you have come from a different background as well. So can you tell us a little bit about your origin story?
Oh yeah, the windy road of Brandon Robertson's career changes, right? So back in the day, from 2003 to 2007, you would have seen me playing the drums at the University of California, Irvine as a music major. That was what I studied in college. I was a classical percussionist, also did some jazz work. I graduated and joined Teach for America. And I got to teach at KIPP Academy of Opportunity in South Central Los Angeles for about 6 years. In fact, I started a music program there. I really built my chops around program development and teaching and pedagogy, and discovered a passion for really supporting others to reach their full potential, seeing students who couldn't play a lick of an instrument now, to this day, being music producers in the industry, and seeing that the root of that started when I had them in the classroom. And so that passion for like supporting people kind of manifested in every job I had. After that, I left there, went to college track and supported college students or high school students at Roosevelt High School to pursue their college endeavors. Then went and worked at a university at a learning center and was responsible for supporting the retention and success of students from our summer bridge programs to even students who are going on academic probation and helping them get back in good standing. I kind of went to a peak and finished off my formal education career by getting my doctorate in education from the University of Southern California, Fight On, Trojans. And really took that opportunity to look for other opportunities, like to pivot and see like, what am I passionate about? What do I want to do now? And I knew that I wanted to stay supporting people and helping them reach their full potential, and started to look at different opportunities. And funny enough, my mother-in-law was the one who told me like, hey, I'm doing this training stuff and you could do this with your eyes closed because you're a teacher. And so I just I had never explored or looked at opportunities in learning and development, which is basically teaching in corporations. And so I started to explore opportunities. And luckily I had a network of people who were connected to Riot. My own wife had worked at Riot for 8 years, and I had never thought of an opportunity of me working there because I was like, it's a gaming company, tech, engineering, art, right? There's no way I could work here. But in my kind of search for learning and development, Riot Games had a position that connected all of my former passions, program development, learning and development, supporting others. And I just needed to now make the case for how all the skills I developed over the course of my career could be transferred into this capacity. And then that happened. January 2020, I started here at Riot and have grown since I've been here, and really found a joy in the work that I do here, but connecting it to all the passions and motivations I had in my previous places.
That's awesome. I love that. A great little story. All right, Daniel, let's hand it over to you. Origin story.
Yeah, my origin story involves, unfortunately, quite a bit of meandering around. I was the kid in high school who didn't really like school and would try and skip class. And so what ultimately came out of that was, I left high school not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And so I applied for business school, or I got into business school because I want to delay that decision. And so I went through business school, and coming out of business school, you're, at least in business school, you're kind of given one of two options: consulting or banking, or maybe something else. And so I took a look at investment banking, and I was like, there's no way this is going to be like cool for me. Like, I don't want to work 150 hours per week. That doesn't sound fun. And so I chose consulting because I didn't know what I want to do with my life. And so fortunately, I found a job with a consulting firm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I worked there for 4 years. And the clients were great. I got to work with Facebook and Twitter and YouTube before they became evil, and ate a bunch of free food and drank a lot of free drinks, and honestly packed on a lot of weight because of just the free amenities. But I think at a certain point in time, I kind of got bored of that. The thread that kind of wove everything together was my just deep, almost degenerate passion for gaming. I've been like, so for example, I started gaming like the moment like my mom and dad bought us a family computer. The moment we got dial-up, I started playing RuneScape, where I learned how to type. And then, eventually they got me an Xbox, which was a huge mistake. And I started just playing degenerate amounts of video games. And eventually, sometime in high school, I discovered League of Legends. Unfortunately, because I think League like destroyed my GPA by a few points. I probably could have gone to a better college if I didn't discover League. But the thing is that like I've had this deep passion for games literally my entire life. Like the number one thing I like most is just playing video games. And so literally, one day after work, I was playing League of Legends with my friends, and I was like, you know what? Like, why not? So I literally went, I opened up the browser, and I typed in like jobs.riotgames.com or something, and I took a look at the jobs board, and I found something called corporate development, and it looked interesting to me. And I got connected with the hiring manager, and one thing led to another. He and I kicked it off, and 2 weeks later I was working in games. I think, if you want to take anything away from that long meandering story, it'd probably be that, it's pretty much impossible to try and figure out. Like, you can try and chart a course in your life, and you can try your best to stick to it. But I think some of the best things that happen serendipitously. And you can really only connect the dots looking back. If it wasn't for, my parents instilling this love in gaming in me, I probably would have never gotten this job. So anyways, that's my story.
I like that. So folks, just to like drive it home, right? Like all of us have kind of gone through all these little weird twists and turns. I myself, same kind of origin story, right? Started here as a contractor, didn't even know I was like a gaming nerd until one day people were like, "Feel like, but you like games, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't play Riot Games. Like I play like Assassin's Creed and stuff." And they were like, "How many hours you put in?" I'm like, "I don't know, like 200, 250." Like, and they were like, "Welcome." Welcome to the family. So you never know. Okay. I want to kind of switch a little bit and talk about some like quick. We'll do this one actually really quickly. To follow up on your origin story, what were some of the challenges that you've kind of experienced thus far, and how did you navigate those? We'll start with Brandon.
I think so. Coming into Riot, I came in a little bit. Riot wasn't like my first, second, or third job. I had a couple of different places I had worked at, including college. I think for me, the biggest challenge was coming in and feeling like I needed to prove myself, right? I had come from formal education, never worked in a corporate environment, right? I use air quotes very strategically because, I worked in a higher education institution. I worked at a not-for-profit. I worked at a school, but I never worked in a like revenue generating corporate environment and thought that it was going to be vastly different. It's not. So I think the biggest challenge I had to overcome was thinking that the things that I had learned from my past career opportunities were not going to be as applicable. Even though I could talk about the skills that I could transfer, I still felt this urgency to prove myself in this environment, and quickly learned that like I was going to be just fine, and to not put that level of anxiety on myself, but come here, be willing to learn and like contribute the best of what I have to offer on a day-to-day basis. And that's really all that's expected. And that's what I was brought here to do. So I think having that realization, it's a little bit of imposter syndrome kind of, but it's more so like this sense that you need to prove yourself. That I just quickly, I realized early enough that I could just quickly just shake that off and just be me and do what I know I can do. And so that was really the biggest challenge I had to deal with coming into Riot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I have to remind myself like Riot hired me because I have a superpower, right? Like I have the talent that they need to like push the needle. And it's one of those things you gotta like tell yourself every day. Maybe that's a morning mirror mantra or something.
Oh,
All
Drew,
right.
I know we've had these conversations about
I
reminding each
know.
other that, right?
I know. Okay, Marlon, what about you? What are some hurdles that you've experienced?
I guess just piggybacking off what you were just talking about, imposter syndrome. As someone who has mostly in the last 10 years, aside from some detours, mostly worked freelance, worked in music. Coming into a more corporate setting, coming into the essentially the tech sphere, right? Just not feeling like maybe I belong, right? It's like sometimes you have that feeling, and it's an everyday thing, but learning to accept and celebrate your accomplishments is definitely something that I've had to work on. Don't let anyone or anything dim your light. That's something that definitely, including yourself, that voice in the back of your head, like it's good to listen to it too. It's like sometimes that makes you want it more, right? It's pulling you back in a way, but it's also like, how can I get above this, right? So it's definitely those things, learning to accept that you're here because they hired you to be here, right? They want you to be here. And it's something that I think that a lot of people actually, if you talk to others, like they feel the same way. I definitely believe, like especially our differences together make us stronger, right? Like I might be put onto a team with an engineer, myself, an accountant, and all that. Like we're all coming from different vantage points, right? And so our different perspectives will bring, rather than working in a silo with all engineers or all visual designers, right? Like we're all coming from different perspectives, and we'll come up with, I think, better, more innovative solutions. So I think just working in those settings, it definitely it was an adjustment. But what's great about Riot, I think, is that they are accepting of everyone, and they're always willing to help you along the way. I think that's something that I really genuinely love about working here. So
Awesome. Thanks. All right, Daniel. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to beat on the dead horse, but I think I'm just gonna say imposter syndrome was something that I had to grapple with quite heavily when I first joined. The reason why I had to deal with it was because of just the caliber of people that I suddenly found myself surrounded by. Um, it like these I mean, consulting was great, and you're surrounded by smart people, but when I came to Riot, it was suddenly like cranked up to 1,000. Everyone was passionate about games, like everyone was like, from traditionally successful backgrounds. Everyone was so articulate, so on and so forth. And so I found it, I guess challenging, because I was just like, when am I going to get found out that they hired me on because of a mistake? But thankfully, we work in video games, and we have video games as this medium through which we get to learn a little bit more about each other. And so it was just a matter of time until we all just became friends, between myself and the folks that I looked up to and still look up to. The second thing I would say is around, I guess it's an offshoot of imposter syndrome. It's more along the lines of, at Riot, you have this ability to really drive change. And then when you're given the reins to drive change, sometimes you're just like, I don't know what to do with this. Or you might get paralyzed. And so that was challenging, but thankfully I've had amazing mentors, who were patient with me, and willing to kind of guide me through Riot. And that is a part of my job that's no longer scary.
Nice. That's awesome. It's such a good point how like, you know, our products tend to like bring us together, right? It's kind of the common denominator, which is just really nice. Okay, my final question before we get to the Q&A, if you could each just take a couple short moments, what advice would you give to students that are exploring the industry and how they can start their career? We'll start with Brandon.
I'm always a proponent of like, learn the skills that you can, right? But then build your network, right? Like talk to people around the industry you're interested in. Be willing to take a risk and look at a maybe smaller company to test your skill set out and develop a little bit more. And if you're still a student, intern, right? Like I was a music major. I interned at the Orange County Pacific Symphony. I was a marketing intern for 2 years. And the thing I learned was not, I mean, I didn't learn how to be the best marketer, but I learned what it was like to be in a workplace and what the valuable skill sets were around working with teams and being able to collaborate and like be able to go from 0 to 1 on a project and be dependable. And all of those things outline the interview process, right? That's the interview process at Riot. There's like a technical screen on can you do the job? And then there's a like, do we want to work with you? Right. And so if the more you can build your network, be an expert in the thing that you want to learn, and then like be good with working with other people, it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for you to break into the industry.
Totally. Marlon, what do you got?
I would say, I guess foundational and technical skills are great, but soft skills will get you far, right? I think be kind. That's like number one. That's like every day. Just be kind, you know, network and build real relationships, you know, check in on people. I feel like take risks, you know, try not to doubt your true potential. And I think sometimes people will get a degree and they're like, okay, now give me a job, right? Like it just doesn't work that way, like in the real world always, right? I think networking super important. I've gone to I guess I did a lot of like remote events, you know, I would like summits, like game summit event. I participated in gaming events, you know, obviously playing games with other people if you want to go specifically into games. I think also when it comes to keeping in touch, like be proactive, reach out and set up time, you know, like it's easy to go and say like, hey, like let's keep in touch, here's my card, whatever. Take that card and reach out to them, you know, like be on it. I think that a lot of the like just going off of what Brandon was saying with the interview process, we want to see that obviously you have the technical skills, but it's can you work with others? You know, are you a team player? Like, can you be humble? You know, like can you receive feedback? You know, these are a lot of things that it's, you know, when you're getting scored in school for certain tests and things of that nature, that's one thing. But like when you're working with other people, everyone's coming from like a different perspective. And, you know, you just learning to kind of work on a team, I think is like super important. And just network. And again, just be kind,
Nice. All right, Daniel, take us home for Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm gonna beat on the dead horse and just say, like, so something that blew my mind when I first joined the industry a year and a half ago, and this is something, you know, that I kind of like learned both at Riot internally, but also externally amongst the games community, as you know, one of the representatives for Riot for the broader games community, is that the games community is like frighteningly small. Like it's like weird how small it is, especially considering, you know, I came in from tech, and tech is like huge, and then like gaming was like orders of magnitude smaller, like pretty much like this is a hyperbole, but like also kind of not, where like everyone kind of knows everyone. And so like the advice here is just, you know, as Brandon and Marla have already said, be as proactive as possible, and don't be afraid to be the first person to initiate a relationship. And then, you know, like and then once that relationship is initiated, don't be afraid to, like, learn and ask about that person's journey, and be kind of annoying sometimes. And when I say annoying, I really mean persistent. But it, like, these kind of things really, really, really do happen, because the worst thing, or not the worst thing, but between like creating a relationship and being an application, I think it's much better to have a relationship be your wedge in, versus just being an application.
Totally true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hopefully have saved us enough time for some Q&A, and I think I see some questions in the chat. So thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you all so much. This was the perfect introduction, not just to the Riot team, but also giving students and people that are looking to get into the gaming industry that overall perspective of the fact that it's not going to be one track every time. It's not going to be always based off, especially a lot of our college students are like, if I didn't have this internship, if I didn't do this program while I was in school, I could not do this. So you all are the perfect representations of how there is so many tracks to not just the gaming industry, but to be in a field that you love to be in. So thank you so much for giving your feedback to that. I have a few questions already queued. If anybody has any additional questions, you are more than welcome to drop them in the chat. But I'm going to be honest with you and say that the questions that we have might take up the rest of the time because they're great questions. So I am going to actually share my screen quickly. Okay, so some of the Q&A or the questions that came into the chat were these specifically. So depending on how the Riot Games team wants to go ahead and handle these, I can go one by one, and then you guys can decide who you feel is best to answer the question. So the first question is, who is the best person to ask for advice about long-term career work within Riot? I'll go ahead and sum that up. So who do you all feel is the best person to contact for long-term work? So people that are probably, this is probably a question from someone that has graduated, probably not looking for an internship, maybe full-time employment. Who would you all feel? Which this is a very direct question. So I commend you for your boldness for this question.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not sure if this is the right answer for the question, but I would say the job board, right? like honestly, a long-term position. The two types of non-internship positions we offer at Riot are typically contract work, which is oftentimes an avenue to get into Riot long-term. I think you just heard two people on this call, that was the way in for them. But then also just the full-time job board positions that are posted. There's not really a contact person because the way that the hiring works is every hiring manager, like for example, I'm a hiring manager for a couple positions posted or that were previously posted, and you have kind of autonomy over that process with your recruiter. And so what I would say is that if there's a job that you see that is a full-time position, reaching out to someone who maybe you're connected to on that network to see if they could provide more information or even a referral is probably your best bet to break into a long-term position at Riot.
Awesome. And I'm actually going to refer to the chat. So Marlon, thank you so much. He dropped into the chat the Riot Games job board. So if you are looking for kind of those full-time, part-time roles within Riot, please go to that job board and see what they have available. And everything that the Riot team has already addressed and outlined within this conversation and this chat is exactly the steps that you should be following. Make sure that you're presenting your best self. Make sure that you are making the network if and when you do get these internships or job roles. Make sure that you are going above and beyond people's expectations to ensure that this can be something more long-term than something short-term. So agreed, 100%. Next, how long can be the internship, I would need something 5 to 6 months to validate my 2 schools. So is that possible? Are internships 5 to 6 months long for the Riot team?
I can also pop in here. I know these questions are a bit specific for the team. So perhaps for those folks, maybe we can one-on-one them, but I think it'd be really great if we can get some questions that may be helpful for everyone across the board. So, I love the question about suggestions on reaching out to and talking to people in the industry, but it seems like Brandon, you kind of answered that a bit there. I love the question about imposter. Can we jump into that one? And maybe the other one, I can find the person and one-on-one them.
I can jump into the imposter question. So I think this really boils down to kind of like what your typical response to challenge is, right? Like in an environment, even when you feel imposter syndrome, I think people divert to their place of comfort, and the place like the strengths that they've developed over time to cope or manage different situations. Personally, as a minoritized individual in society, I have learned to dig into challenge and not be deferred by it. So I think you have to kind of talk to or think about what your tendency is in those circumstances, and also try to find the solution that is going to ultimately lead to the impact and outcome you're trying to seek. So can it be an opportunity to shut down when you feel that imposter syndrome? It can be, but if you are someone who really values stepping up to challenge like I do, it actually can oftentimes be a place for me to want to prove myself in a proving ground. So I'll give you a quick example. When I first started, my first task at Riot was to develop a set of global manager expectations that did not exist, right? So I had to connect all the management responsibilities across our global offices and find a set that was easy to remember and something that we could use to build out programmatic supports for managers and even measures of success for managers that were not too specific, but also not too broad and meaningless. And then get everyone to adopt that, right? From our CEO, Nicolo, to our founders being comfortable with it, to like the average to our engineering managers, which can be very particular. And so that was a huge task and could have been something that took forever, and I cowered and didn't step up to the plate for. But honestly, it was a huge opportunity to prove myself very early in my time here, and I just stepped up to the plate. So it really does boil down to you, but can be a great opportunity to maybe prove to yourself that you're not an imposter.
What I would add to this, to Brandon's answer as well, and I guess this is just from my own personal experience, is when you're dealing with imposter syndrome, it's important to parse out like what you're doing that is fueled by seeking validation from your peers, and then also doing work that you like intrinsically believe in and what you think is great work. Like a pattern that I found myself falling into early on, when I was dealing with imposter syndrome for really the first time in my life, was I became really I guess focused with seeking validation from maybe my boss, and maybe the people who I work with, like in my immediate team around me. That isn't really that healthy to sustain all the time, and nor do I think it'll lead to long-term happiness or anything like that. I know this is probably a little deep, but what I found that was helpful in one, helping me deal with imposter syndrome, and also two, just being happier at work. I'm very happy, but I guess even happier with work, is just making sure that you don't in the process of dealing with imposter syndrome, sorry, to not necessarily deal with it through validation seeking, but to also remember to pull yourself back and focus your calories on doing work that you're truly passionate about.
I am super big on that. I always like my main quote is make your passion your profit. If you do that, and we heard it even growing up of like, if you love what you do, it's not work. That's cool. But if I genuinely have a passion for something, that then is going to return the or yield the result of me actually making money from something that I'm passionate about. So agreed, 100%. So we are coming down to time. And like I said, this is just the first of many, literally. So this is a great introduction to the Riot team, the Riot staff. I'm going to end off with one question that's going to be more holistic in any way that you all can help. And I'm basing this question off of the people that are here to speak towards it. But there are some people that are more creative than technical. And they're asking, which way should I go to be a part of the gaming industry, especially with Riot Games? Should I take more technical classes or get more technical skills? Or should I continue down my creative role of what I am doing? That could be, of course, graphic design, photography, videography, animation, things like that is what they're asking. And some of these people have also been in the broadcasting or the streaming network or even that kind of industry for the past few years. And they're wondering, what else can I do to make people like Riot look at me before they look at someone else? I know, super heavy, but
Yeah, that's a tough one. I feel like as someone that came in through, I guess the creative, with a creative foundation, I still seek out to learn technical skills every day, right? So I think they go hand in hand. It's very difficult to not know because it could be specific to each person, right? Like depends on like what you want to do. Like, do you want to be an engineer or do you want to do visual design? Do you want to work on a team that builds out games but then do the creative part of it? It's like there's so many different roles. I think if you're doing what you like right now, just keep doing that. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to pick a path for whoever asked that question. But I think that from what a lot of the other speakers talked about, there's no one way to get into Riot Games or gaming in general or just the tech industry. And I think that just if you one thing that I was doing for a while, I would look at the job boards and just kind of see what skill sets like they were looking at, right? And as a visual designer, like I had no idea. Like I knew Adobe, Suite and all this, but I had no idea what Figma was, right? Figma is a UX UI program, which is like at that time like an emerging kind of industry with UX. And so I just started taking classes, right, just to kind of on the side, just to supplement some of my other skill sets, right? Thinking that at some point they'll be useful. I think that just constantly learning, there's nothing bad about that, right? So I think that just keep learning. And I know that was a long-winded answer, maybe nothing, but just it's hard to say, I think. But just if you enjoy what you're doing, just keep doing that. And yeah, I'll just pass it on.
I'll add a little bit. As someone who studied music in college and then really just learned over the course of that time that you can't teach certain levels of creativity is something that you kind of have, and it's a viewpoint you apply to the world, but the technical skills you learn can open up opportunities for your creativity to shine. And so if you're thinking about where do I invest my time in learning skills, I wouldn't invest it in learning creativity. I would invest it in learning technical skills that could enable your creativity to shine in new and different areas and platforms. And I say this to say, because Riot and any company knows now, this is why learning development exists, is that the half-life of technical skills is even shorter now, right? A language you might be learning in engineering in college right now might be like 2 or 3 years away from being useless, right? And so like, how are you staying up to date on what is current? What are the new strategies, techniques for how we work, what production looks like, whether it's agile or waterfall or Kanban, or whether you're thinking about using Miro boards or Figmas, which DAW you're using to process audio, and what are the things on the horizon. The more you know about those technical skills and you could add that to your tool belt for how your creativity manifests, the better off you'll be. So I feel it feels like a trick question, but honestly, like if you're going to invest in learning something, learn the technical skills, but be able to exhibit the creativity through those technical skills.
Agreed. We are essentially overtime, but at time. I'll just add on to that very quickly. I am director of operations for the company that I work for, a dual degree in management and supply chain. And literally during COVID, as much as I did have such amazing contracts, what I did do was I got a COVID compliance officer certification. And as many people as you're like, oh, what do you need that for? You don't know, as far as entertainment sets, as far as game development sets, there are so many things that this COVID compliance officer is getting paid great money to be there just for 3 to 4 hours. But because I took the classes, have the certification, have the documents, and even the layouts of what that looks like, now that has raised my tax bracket or my income or my pay to another level based off of these technical skills that I now have. So taking it outside of creative, because I am in no way a creative, but letting others know that those little certifications and the little bit of knowledge that you can gain, especially for free. Like I want to say my COVID compliance certification was like $20, $25. Those type of things, Microsoft has free ones, Google has free ones, Apple does. You can go to these websites and get these free technical certifications to then align with your creative experience to ensure that you're getting this role, or at least an interview for this role, because you have that backing. So awesome. Great question. I think to end everything, I appreciate all of you, Riot team, that have been on this call. I want to make sure from your team, so Farah, Drew, Victoria, if you guys have anything to kind of close out with, but other than that, I'm going to close it out with our survey.
No, I think we're all set. Just want to thank everyone for being here with us. Thank you, and shout out to our moderator and panelists. Y'all were awesome. I feel like I took away some tidbits. I'm over here taking notes. So I love it. Thank you so much. And community, of course, for your partnership. To all the participants, we're excited to see you at the rest of the series.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Exactly. So literally, I have a exit survey. I have now dropped it in the chat probably 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Because people are saying thank you and we appreciate Riot. You totally fangirl to the Riot Games team. Like that's what's happening currently. But want to make sure that we get as much feedback as possible for these fireside chats. As we stated, if you signed up via the Eventbrite or Discord or whatever, you see the layout as what this looks like for our fireside chats. So essentially they happen bi-monthly. But please go ahead and join on to these different fireside chats. This was just one. And for the rest of them, we're not going to discuss these topics moving forward. So please go ahead, see which topics that you're super interested in, sign up for those sessions. But also, dropping it one more time, please fill out our exit survey. That's just going to gauge for us what we can incorporate moving forward for the next fireside chats that will keep you not just engaged, but get you the necessary information that you feel that you need where you are right now. So first and foremost, thank you 100% to the Riot team. You all are amazing, especially hearing your background stories. It really does speak to the narrative of the fact that you do not have to come from one specific area or demographic to be able to be in the gaming and esports industry. So thank you so much for giving your experiences.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.